Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our June 10th, 2024 Sueur City Council meeting. At this time, we'll bring the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Council members, you had an opportunity over the weekend to look your agenda over, had an opportunity to reach out to our city administrator with any questions. This time I'll accept any motions to approve tonight's agenda. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Tui seconded. Any discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to presentations. Mr. Roby, you want to introduce, please?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As council will recall, in 2023, we had representatives from Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center present to City Council in the spirit of ongoing partnership with our local medical campus. The city has maintained a long-term partnership with the medical campus going back to the 1950s. And tonight we have Bob Broder, who serves as the chair of the Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center board. Also Stacy Lee and Ben Nielsen, who are representing Ridgeview Sueur. And I'll turn it over at this time to Mr. Broder.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, Robert Broder, chair of the board of the Ridgeview Sueur campus. And we are here this evening to share about our facility and being an integral part of the Sueur community. We appreciate the support of the city and our cooperation together. Recently, which I hope you are aware, we had our Taste, Tunes, and Taps in April to raise funds along with the interest from our Sueur Ridgeview Foundation to secure $100,000 over the next 2 years to purchase rehabilitation equipment and to enhance our rehabilitation facilities. We thank the community and your personal support in this endeavor. As a board, we set policy, but it is our management and our competent staff which makes it all happen. And so now I turn our sharing over to our top administrative team of Ben and Stacy.
Thanks, Bob. So I'm Stacy Lee. I'm the VP of the Critical Access Hospitals located here in Sueur and also Arlington. And I was just wondering, Joe, we sent you the presentation.
Yes, if you click there,
okay,
it gets you right to it.
Great. So the only thing I'll just add, thanks Bob for doing that introduction, is just as a review, it's the three of us came last year at this time too. We had probably different things to talk about because we had a lot of things going on. We were working with the city to pay off our debt. We have well, we'll talk about some of those things. We had discussed about taking over or not renewing the lease with the Mayo Clinic. So a lot of things have happened on the Sueur campus in the past year. But one thing that hasn't changed is our board structure. So as you can tell, you know, we have a community advisory board that's located with Sueur, led by Bob. We have Pam, who our liaison board member. She attends all the board meetings and brings back information to you all. So we have cut our meetings to meet quarterly now, and we do have a meeting in July with all of our hospital campuses. Last year, where did we hold that last year? I think it was either in
Cologne.
Yes, we held it in Cologne. This year it's going to be in Laconia, but we try to spread out our locations in our service area. Okay, so I'm only going to highlight some of these because I know you all have received this presentation. Otherwise, I could talk about the Sueur campus for about 45 minutes. I'm sure you don't want that. So there's a few highlights that we had in 2023 that I just want to expand on. So we've added on-site wound care clinic services. That has been a huge deal on the Sueur campus. So we found that that continues to increase. So it's nice to have that access. As we discussed last year, we transferred the nursing home operations over to Cura of Sueur in 2023 of June. We actually added ophthalmology services. We work with Ritchie Eye Clinic, who works with our local optometrist in town, and that has been just a great service. They fill up their days every time they're here. So we took over the primary clinic primary care clinic operations. So now we're the sole clinic operations in Sueur, and we'll show a little testimonial we had at the end. That's going very well. The clinic visits continue to increase each month. We did receive MDH Rural Hospital Planning and Transition Grant. So we did some strategic planning, and I'll leave that for Ben to talk about, but we did that for our critical access hospitals as well as our Waconia and 212 hospitals. We continue to align our emergency preparedness practices. You know, we went through a lot with the COVID pandemic, but we also want to be sure that we're prepared for any emergent, whether it's severe weather or whether it's a pandemic. So we're working on aligning those to have that additional support. One really cool thing is we added a critical access hospital social worker to our team. We always had a social worker in Sueur for the nursing home, but to have one for our hospital patients has been a huge advantage. They work on discharge plans from the hospital. They work with the local hospitals that are referring to our swing beds, so that's been a great addition. We did successfully complete both our trauma 4 and stroke designation surveys, and we ended the year in a positive operating margin, which is great for a critical access hospital or any hospital right now. We're also in the black so far this year. We have a calendar year end, so that's always a good thing to see. We like that for sustainability. A couple of our capital investments, we just always like to share that with you guys just to know that we're putting money back into our campuses. So we did have, this year, we intentionally limited some of our capital investments while every healthcare organization, it seems like around, was suffering some losses. So we were just really trying to keep cognizant of those losses. But we did invest about $370,000 in 2023, knowing that we had to invest a significant amount in 2024. So what we did is we bought a new chemistry analyzer. That was a substantial, for the majority of that $268,000. We also bought bladder scanners and a commercial washer. We also, if you haven't seen, is we updated all the branding signage. Looks really nice on campus. Note that this year we just put that in, but we have a brand new generator. You know, those generators cost almost $750,000. So things are so expensive. But that's the investments we've made to date, and we have continued investments. Looking ahead into years coming, we have GI coming back. So Dr. Khan, who once was here a few years ago, she's coming back. So we already have a full slate set for, I think it's next Tuesday. She'll be starting again her GI services. Primary care, like I mentioned, specialty care, we continue to look at what specialties we can offer here. Our Twin Cities orthopedic partnership has been going very well. Ancillary services have continued to increase now that we've brought primary care solely underneath the Sueur umbrella. Our therapy team, we've also moved away from our contract with Aegis and are providing our own therapists. And we're looking at Sunrise Plaza with the city and making sure we can continue to provide that for many years going forward. Last slide for me, well, almost, are the providers. So we just wanted to list our providers. As you can see, we have Dr. Alto and Tiffany. They're both our primary care providers. We have Amy Edwards. She's our nurse navigator. Heather Johnson is our wound care certified nurse practitioner. Dr. Khan will be starting, like I said, next Tuesday. Dr. Miller is our ophthalmologist that comes and does cataracts. We have Dr. Morgenstern from TCO, and then Stacy White, who is our podiatrist. So we continue to just look at what services are best to provide access for in this community. Lastly, I just wanted to share this testimonial. We actually just got this from an RN who had sent this, I think, maybe a week or two ago. So she said, I want to take this opportunity to share so many good experiences that the Sueur area residents are having with Ridgeview Medical Center Sueur and all the services provided on campus. I've heard from 4 different home care patients, families recently about how they are so happy Ridgeview Medical Center is in Sueur. They are so glad to be receiving primary and supportive care right in town. Most of these residents had actually switched from Mayo to Ridgeview simply because they're not able to easily leave Sueur for care, and their experiences have far surpassed their expectations. And then the quote was from these patients. Before, we'd always have to go to St. Peter, Mankato, New Prague, or Rochester for appointments, tests, and follow-ups, but now they can do it all right here. It's been such a blessing for me and my family. Terry is a home health nurse, and she just wanted to share that with those in the Ridgeview campus at Sueur. So do you guys have any questions for me? Okay.
Anybody? Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate your report.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to turn over to Ben.
All right, thanks again for having us. Ben Nielsen, Chief Operating Officer at Ridgeview. Been at Ridgeview for 14 years. I've been working with Sueur for most of the time that we've been part of Ridgeview. So thanks again for having us. I can't believe it's been a year. It feels like 2 or 3 months ago that I was giving updates. So hopefully I'm not repeating myself from what I shared last year. I'll share just quickly some slides around the healthcare industry, and I could also talk about that for 45 minutes, but I'll try not to. I'm just where it's at because it has been a challenge for the last couple of years, although I feel like there's some optimism, at least at the Ridgeview level, about where we're at. And then I'll just kind of close with strategically where is Ridgeview at and how does Sueur fit into that. So Mike Phelps is our CEO, and I, periodically go to different communities, whether it's city councils, chambers, rotaries, and so just pulled a few slides that we typically just kind of give an update on where is the industry of healthcare. And I will say some of this is a bit dated, maybe 6 months ago, and I would say we even feel better now than we did 6 months ago. So I'll try not to be so negative when I go through this. And Stacy had the fun stuff to share those positive patient comments. Anyways, the healthcare industry has been challenged. Triple-demic, which we're not experiencing that so much now being in the summer, but in the winter, fall season, we have RSV, flu, COVID. That fills up the hospitals, that fills up the ERs, the urgent cares. And if you're short-staffed, it only makes that more challenging. But again, I think we're in a better spot now than we were 6 months ago, and certainly better than 18 months ago. Workforce shortages, that continues to be a thing. Rising costs is a thing. Although we're, again, feeling better at Ridgeview, our HR leader said, we have fewer job openings now than we did 5 years ago. And that is a big accomplishment. So again, it's starting to move in the right direction. There's still a lot of staff, unique staff positions that are very challenging, but we're getting better. The next two I'll kind of bucket together, the lack of skilled nursing and boarding. I don't know if I've heard the term boarding before COVID, but once COVID hit, you started having patients boarding in the ER or boarding upstairs in the inpatient beds. And that links to the skilled nursing because if you have a patient up on the inpatient bed that clinically is okay to be discharged and go to either home or to a nursing home to get additional cares, if there's no beds or the family member doesn't want to go to the beds that are available, we now have these patients sit in the hospital for another night, 2 nights. And then now you also have the ER patient that is looking for an inpatient bed that can't get upstairs. So the workflow of a healthcare hospital system right now has been challenging. And then when you're short staffed, it only makes those challenges worse. Again, double-digit supply chain, inflationary costs, again, just adds to the challenges on top of the feds and states looking at decreasing payments for physicians. And certainly our commercial payers are always trying to beat us up over how they can avoid paying hospitals and clinics. So, if you have your reimbursement decreasing, then your cost increase. I think everybody understands the economics well enough that that's not a good trend. Continue to have more regulatory burden, both from Fed, state, and our payers. Maybe just a quick example is I think some of the recent state ruling is that if healthcare systems or hospitals, clinics are going to close a program, the state gets a lot more involved at that, where they maybe didn't 5 years ago. North Memorial, again, I think they've been struggling financially over the last few years. They recently announced that they're closing their behavioral health programs. And, so I understand the need of trying to figure out how do you support that, but if it's not funded well, it's also hard for the systems to support those programs. A little bit of the same story. This is more financial data from the Minnesota hospitals in Minnesota for 2022 and 2023. I'm not going to go through this, but essentially it's been a challenge from a financial standpoint. Many hospital systems are losing money. My sense is at the end of 2023, some of the hospitals were starting to make a turn and getting closer to break even. But 23 was a very rough year for a lot of the health care systems. And the last bullet is very similar to Ridgeview, where probably 15 years ago, Ridgeview had 40% government payers, Medicare, Medicaid, and 60% commercial. And now we've flipped. We have about 60% government payers and 40% commercial. And why that's important is, you know, if we have a procedure that costs us $1,000 to do, whether it's staff, equipment, and so forth, Medicare is going to pay us $80, and we're going to lose $20. And a commercial payer, Blue Cross, Health Partners, whoever it might be, maybe will pay us $120 or $1,200. So, you know, we can make $200 on the commercial, but lose $200 on the government payers. And if you now have more government than commercial, eventually that math, it makes it challenging. So I think it's important to understand where the industry is at, because I'm sure you guys read, you know, whether it's the local or even the state news on, it's not just small communities, right? Again, North Memorial closing services and programs in the middle of the metro. So hopefully you can understand that the industry is a challenge, and it's trying to balance how do you still want to have a profit because you need to invest in your staff, your facilities, and to be able to support additional programs. Any questions on just where the industry is at? Okay. So in closing, just a quick slide that shows our Ridgeview strategic plan. We finished kind of the strategic planning at the end of 2023. So this is a plan for 2 years. We were deliberate in saying, let's just do it for 2 years because there's so much change in healthcare. I'm not going to read through this. I'll maybe just highlight the 3 pillars that we have: healthy communities, financial strength, and organizational excellence. We've had those 3 pillars for probably close to 10 years now. As we went through kind of the strategic exercise, everything still kind of fits within those 3 pillars, so we kept them. Within healthy communities, the 2 bullets: optimizing Ridgeview's market presence using a system of care approach, increasing and enhancing access to Ridgeview. A lot of words that, you know, maybe it sounds good, maybe it doesn't, but what I would speak to that as an example is we're doing a lot of work between Ridgeview of Sueur and Ridgeview as a system with our hospitalists, which are our providers that take care of our patients in the hospital. It's the same group, whether they're in Chaska, Arlington, Sueur, Waconia, and our ED, ER physicians, where the same group in Chaska, Waconia, Arlington, Sueur is. How do we better align and connect to say, all right, if a patient comes into the Sueur ER, if we can keep them in the Sueur as an inpatient, we should do whatever we can to try to keep them close to home. And really, Ridgeview is driven on how do we keep them close to home. So instead of sending them out to Waconia or wherever that patient might go, really getting focused on how do we keep them close to home, because we do have capacity in the Sueur to take care of more patients. So that's a big one that's happening. And then I'll maybe just kind of jump down to organizational excellence by recognizing our talent and our greatest assets. A lot of work with our HR team and recognizing how do we continue to support our staff from a retention standpoint, from a recruitment standpoint, and really understanding what's valuable for our employees. Obviously compensation, that's where everybody starts, but I do believe there's more than just compensation as it relates to how do we treat our employees well. I will stop there. I'd love to take questions if you guys have questions.
Anybody?
Yeah, I just was wondering about, in the past, I know we had a relationship with Prairie Care.
Yep.
And mental health.
Yep.
And where any change or update on that?
Yep, I do. And there's, you know, 3 things that I would have added on as far as what Ridgeview is doing from a strategic standpoint. It's really pushing on virtual care. It's pediatrics, primarily up in Waconia, and it's mental health. So with mental health, you're right, Prairie Care is going to be vacating their Chaska program and essentially consolidating it with their existing Edina program. So that is opening up a lot of space in Chaska. And for the last 12 years, Ridgeview has been working with Alina to identify how do we provide mental health better, differently, more within our communities. So we've already created a contract with Alina. We were going to develop a program in Waconia, actually had the construction people ready to tear down one of our suites. And then once we identified or realized Prairie Care was moving out, we paused And now we have the ability to move into 7,000 to 10,000 square feet to really develop a robust mental health program. So the downside of all of this is it's delaying it probably by 6 months, but it's going to allow us to, one, provide more right out of the gate, and then also give us more space and growth to expand the program. So we're excited about that. Very thankful that Alina is doing this with us because they've done it, they're doing it, they have the experience. And we certainly feel more confident jumping into it with their help.
And that's all outpatient?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just disappointing to hear like Memorial Behavioral Health talk about boarding patients in the ER.
A lot of them
That was
need
another
that.
one. So just hate to add that on to
Yep.
everybody else. So,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ben, thank you very much for your presentation. Stacy, you also, I miss seeing you guys every month or so. I spent 4 years on the board, and I appreciate the quality of healthcare you folks provide to our community. And also on a local note, the feedback that Bob and Pam provide to Ridgeview is very essential too. So thank you again for everything. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes.
You too.
Moving on to consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the city council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items being enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence.
I do have a couple questions.
Should we entertain those questions now? Because I think your questions are on the first or the second.
Well, the two trucks, explain to me if they were budgeted 5 years ago. Is that correct? Am I wrong there?
So initially, both trucks, and I was just going back here earlier to find, so at least one of them was in the CIP as early as 2021. I didn't get that even farther back than 2021, but 2021 and 2022, the electric department wanted to try to squeeze a few more years of life out of them, so they didn't, or so they didn't purchase them then. Both of them were then included on the 2024 CIP.
What were they budgeted at, 2021, 22? So you could roughly add the two together.
Let's see, box. $135,000.
Okay, so did we trade in two trucks to get these two?
We will trade them in to get these two, correct?
So there is a trade-in value.
Yes, and I don't know, I'm gonna look at Ryan just out of
It ain't gonna be
naturally,
much.
but
Yeah.
presumably there will be some, yes.
So we actually, 2.5, 3 years ago, budgeted more than what we spent this year.
Yes,
Amazing. Okay, one more, if I could.
Joe, can I clarify something? So are these just chassis or are these built?
I believe these are chassis only, although I would have to look into. to
I
see
guess the
if
reason I'm
these
asking,
boxes
following
are-
what Mike's asking, I'm wondering, so this isn't potentially final expense on that truck?
Correct, there may be dump box expense,
How much?
but that I can't speak to right away. We can look into that though. What the dump
It
box-
didn't make sense if you were, 2.5, 3 years ago, you're budgeting 135 and it comes in at 120. Now, I'm assuming 135 was a complete unit.
That
So-
was budgeted.
So the 135 probably was in 2021 a completed unit, which would be, it depends on if we can reuse the old boxes or if we can get where the boxes come from.
So how does it work then? You need the new trucks, fair enough. It's gonna cost a lot more than what was budgeted. Where does that come from? That difference?
So I don't know that it will end up costing a lot more, but if it did, in theory, it would come out of operating costs in the electric fund, operating expense in electric fund. Or CIP that was budgeted in previous years and not spent.
Okay, and then one last question, on edge services, PW-52 repairs for $12,000. What broke? That would be account number 101-43121-404.
What page are you on?
2 of 8.
I'm just looking it up here.
It's a $12,000 charge.
What's the name of the service?
I looked them up. It's On Edge Services LLC. I mean, you can get back to me if you want.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. We might be able to open this. It's one of our public works vehicles. I'm just trying to figure the capital number is 52. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, because it did look like it was some sort of a vehicle service. That's a pretty healthy repair bill. I thought maybe it was rebuilding the police car that got it cracked up.
I'm just trying to see exactly which vehicle number 52, and I don't have it in front of me right now. I can get back to you.
Yeah, do that if you would. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
No other questions? Okay, with that, you're gonna go through those with us, Mr. Roby, the consent agenda. Took you a little out of your game, but that's okay.
Nope, we're fine. It's all good. All right, 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first is approval of city council minutes from the May 28th, 2024 regular meeting. Item B, approval of disbursements through today. Included in those disbursements are 7 items over $25,000. The first MMPA for May 2024 purchase power totaling $637,871.29. Item 2, to Ballman Roofing and Coating for Building C roof for $76,480. Items 3 and 4 have been discussed. Midway Ford F550 and F350 for the electric department. Item 5, Minnesota Department of Revenue for the city sales tax for May 2024 totaling $43,731. Item 6, to Lock Pros, which is part of the 2024 approved street maintenance for crack sealing work, $36,700. And to Neo Water Treatment LLC for wastewater FX 300 material, $35,053.16. Item C is approval of the Main Street closure application to Green Mills having a Relay for Life event. And item D, approval of the city administrative performance evaluation. And I will really quickly add that one of our listeners from home pointed out that the PW52 is the used Mack dump plow truck that was purchased.
Really?
Indeed.
Apparently didn't come with any warranty. Only had it for 6 months.
I mean, that's not uncommon for used not to have warranties on them. And that's-
Well, you usually get something out. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with it, if the tranny went or what happened.
Well, for a specialty vehicle like that on the used market, as I recall, we got a fairly reasonable price on it, so it wouldn't surprise me on a vehicle like that. It's not a certified used vehicle from the dealer, so wouldn't be surprising to not get a warranty on that.
Disadvantage to not buying uniform new.
Fair.
Because they're okay.
Does anybody have any questions for our city administrator regarding the consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to pass tonight's consent agenda. Thank you, Councilmember Schleter, seconded by Councilmember Williams. Any other discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Mr. Tui, we have nobody here. Thank
Nobody
you.
signed it.
Thank you, appreciate that. Next is into the city administrator's update. Mr. Roby, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few items. Airport Commission met last week. We'll be bringing a new hangar lease agreement to the next city council meeting, God willing. The planning commission met. I don't want to steal Mr. Schluter's thunder here, so I'll let him give whatever update he sees fit during the comments and questions from council members. We are continuing discussions with Ag Group here around our significant industrial user wastewater agreement. Those very preliminary conversations are going well and are beneficial to both sides. I'll be attending a Climate Smart Municipalities meeting this Friday morning, hosted by the University of Minnesota. Next Wednesday, June 19th, City Hall offices will be closed in celebration of Juneteenth, also known as United States' second Independence Day, recognizing when Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, announcing the executive order better known as the Emancipation Proclamation that is being celebrated on Wednesday, June 19th. Kudos to all staff, all city staff this meeting for who have been working outside, the mosquitoes and the gnats and water generally. City's going through quite a bit of bug spray the last few weeks. And finally, and I'll let the mayor chime in if you would like, we had the pleasure of having a visit today from Representative Angie Craig, who wanted to visit the water treatment plant. Angie Craig, as you recall, was one of the lead sponsors of federal legislation that granted $960,000 toward our water treatment plant upgrades. Representative Craig came down today and toured the site. Appreciation to Pete Burns, our water wastewater manager, who was very charming and led a great tour. And next meeting for City Council will be Monday, June 24th. Two items we'll have the swearing in of two new full-time officers, Officer Haley Jones, who you've probably seen out in the community, and Officer Nate McRoberts, whose first day was today. And we'll also be having a public hearing on nuisance abatement, so more to come on that property nuisance abatement. More to come at that meeting. Any questions?
Thank you. It's been a very delightful visit today with Representative Craig. We appreciate her attendance today and the work she's done on our the federal grant we got for our water treatment plant. And also, Joe, I want to thank you and Pete. You did a wonderful job with the presentation. So thank you. Along the lines of bugs, have you been approached by anybody about the possibility of spraying bugs in the community? I know Henderson has treated theirs over there and they've had some success with it. And a few people asked me about it, and I said I'd take it to our city administrator.
Yes, I've heard from my wife.
I've heard from mine also.
It's been terrible.
Yes.
And witnessed it myself. So at least for the last decade, the city has not done any global treatment across the entire community for mosquitoes or gnats. It's been a difficult summer so far for the bugs. However, I will say that the last few years have probably been historically good for humans for bugs just because of the drought. So we're probably getting back to a new normal, but yes, some other communities surrounding us have opted to treat their entire communities for mosquitoes. And in anticipation of the question at the council table, we are soliciting some quotes for service that would cover potentially public areas or global areas of the community. We'll pull those together and either share those in a memo to City Council or at the next meeting for City Council to consider if that's something that the council would like to do. But this time we have nothing formal planned. We're just getting the dollars pulled together, see how much it would cost.
Very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions for our city administrator? If not, that'll take us into our regular agenda. We will start with item 8A. That would be resolution R 2024-034 to 2025 North 4th Street. Except the report and order hearing. Mr. Beanfang, how are you? I'll let Mr. Roby introduce you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Real quick, when you get to click there, Corey, so Corey should go. Mr. Bean, thanks here as a city administrator tonight, city administrator. Yeah, it's all you want it. As a city engineer, tonight, to discuss the next step in the 2025 street utility improvement project. City council is well aware of this project that city staff and consulting team have been digging into. The next step is here tonight, which is to accept the what's commonly known as the feasibility report for the 2025 street utility improvement project, and order a hearing per state statute. So with that, I'll let Mr. B. Fang take it away. Finance Director Graff is here as well. He's got a slide at the end of Mr. B. Fang's presentation just to talk a little bit more detail about the finances. There's nothing financial that council is voting on tonight. Mr. Graff is just here to share an update.
All right, thank you, Joe. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. So tonight we're another required step in the 429 process. So just a quick summary of timeline here, kind of building off the 10-year CIP adopted late last year. And also late last year, we applied for the LRP grant, and I know that information was shared, but just kind of recognizing that that grant was successful. And so that is going to solidify then our project area there on the right-hand side of the screen. We're kind of progressing with the dependent area, depending on the LRP grant. And so tonight we're going to solidify our project area. We have some dependency now in that project area because of the grant. And so I'll cover that. But back in late February, we ordered the feasibility report. And over the course of the last 2 months here, we've been preparing our report, kind of diving into this project. And within the package, you got the extensiveness of that report. And with that, then some layouts that I'll walk through here tonight, but really kind of just building up, accepting the report, ordering of the hearing, then that is that requirement of the 429, the improvement hearing, that's the hearing we'll be ordering. That is the first of two. So there's the improvement hearing that's intended to kind of solidify the project area, and then we have the assessment hearing. So I'll kind of get into that in a little greater detail, but so within that feasibility report, then we really just defined the project area, and knowing that we had the outcome of the RP, it's really solidified. So we have the North 4th Street corridor, bridge to Dakota Street, so that full length of 4th Street then, and then that Cathcart leg, basically picking up at 4th Street and going down and tying into Commerce Street, that's not 22. So project need we've covered extensively, but failing pavement, undersized utilities, and then the overhead to underground conversion that we've been putting into place, and then the pedestrian facilities with that goal of continuous on both sides on 4th Street, and then one side of Cathcart. I'll cover a little bit wide of one side, but then also noting that 2019 sidewalk project and trying to be mindful of that investment as we work on this same corridor. So within the layout then, I'd say pretty developed for a feasibility report, but in the packet and certainly online, you can get a little better detail and kind of work your way through. But I just thought I'd take a few minutes to kind of just walk through the corridor. We're going to go south to north. Got about 4 slides here. I'll kind of try to be high level, but thought it might be helpful just to kind of lay this out for council. Some things we're considering, things we've already thought of, just kind of give you a sense of what we're trying to accomplish. So taking off up Ridge Street, quite literally right there on the north side. All of 4th Street's going to be a consistent 36-foot wide. So that right now today, there's a little bit of variability. It's got some variability 36 to 40, kind of up to Cathcart, and then north of Cathcart, it's actually a little narrower today. It's 32 feet, but we're going to go through with the straight 36. That matches the corridor exactly on the south side of Ridge Street. That's a 36-foot roadway there on North 4th. So as we start your full pavement reconstruct, I'm not going to repeat myself every slide, but we're rebuilding it all: sanitary sewer, water, rebuilding storm sewer. Not a lot of rebuilding, but adding new primarily, and then new services to the right of way. Obviously, a new roadway surface itself when it comes to the bituminous, and then pedestrian facilities. And on the south end here, there's already existing facilities on both sides. That really was a tap sidewalk, and you'll kind of see this intermittent pink color. And that's us trying to be mindful of that new sidewalk that's just 4 years old now. So we kind of work our way through on the top there. We'll drop back down to the bottom, kind of working left to right. Get up to Oak Street. getting some questionings there about that big cross cutter. That's that drainage that we're gonna be looking to improve upon. So there you see in orange, the number of catch basins to help with that drainage, collect that, and convey that back to Bridge Street. In that case, that's kind of the first drainage systems. Then we get up to North Fifth Street, and we're gonna be mindful of these side street connections. You know, there, that's a skewed intersection, so we're trying to bring that in a bit more of at a radius. You know, we'll see how that fits. The right of way is a little tight. Similar thing we did at Elmwood and Ferry, similar thing we did at South Third and Main, just trying to be really mindful of improving that sight line when we can here. It also reduces the pedestrian crossing. So north of Oak, now we introduce that west side pedestrian facility. That will be new. So that'll be a new sidewalk then on the west side going north of Oak. Then you can see there at Fifth Street, it definitely reduces that crossing. You know, the roadway footprint is reduced pretty substantially. So we'll just keep working here. On the east side, we're still in the top sidewalk project. So you're gonna see that intermittent pink and existing gray there. So we get up to North Morningside. Couple things significant here is this is an interaction of the low and the medium pressure zones. So there's 2 gate valves there today that are in off condition at all times, except in the event that those zones needed to interact. And so different pressure zones aren't able to just through a straight gate valve interact. We do have the PRV at Bridge Street, but looking at just what improvements make sense here. So we've planned for another PRV. We'll see if that moves forward. They're quite expensive, so we definitely want to make sure that the value is there. But recognizing here, we've got an interaction of the pressure zones. Also at Morningside here, you'll see on the east side is we're picking up now what will be a trail. So instead of a 5-foot sidewalk, we'd be proposing an 8-foot trail, consistent to what you would see on Elmwood or Ferry. And a couple of reasons for this. One is the trail connection coming in from Kingsway. So on the bottom half of the screen there, kind of south of St. Anne's School is where we're at. But we have that existing trail facility that kind of just dies there east of the school. And so recognizing the value and the ability to bring that trail across, you can see on the lower bottom of the screen, bring that trail across and connect that into North 4th Street. And then the other is by then continuing the trail along the east side of North 4th, then we can make a connection at the Dakota Street Trail, the trail that's on the north side there. So a nice kind of trail and connect already for some trails that, you know, in this case here, specifically dead end, and then that connectivity kind of all the way back to Kingsway and down to Ferry and Elmwood. So as we progress here on the north side, then on north of Morningside, on the east side, it's going to be a trail. You'll notice that wider width. So still sidewalk on the west side. This is all new facility on the west side. We'll keep working our way up here so we get past the St. Anne's School entrance. We've had some collaboration, kind of coordination with them already. One was just with the trail connection and how we bring that across to their property, but the second was a potential for another entrance. And so they own a property. You can kind of see it on the screen there. It'd be basically 3 parcels north of their existing. They own an undeveloped parcel, and so this would be a time where we could collaborate and build them an entrance for a future connection, with the intent really to loop their parking lot. They have a lot of challenges just with interaction with parents, and this would be an opportunity for them to loop. On projects like this, we've had an early coordination. If there's been an interest to, you know, add an entrance or redevelop, we've been able to try to accommodate that. So we're building at one time, giving them a chance to connect into at a later date. So we build that to the right of way, and then beyond that would be the property owner's responsibility. So some investment and value there with the St. Anne's School. Then we'll continue north, so kind of north of Elm Street. We're going to drop back down. We've got Bullwright, so just bringing that back to the MRADs, setting it up. You see a sewer and water extension there for a future connection. And then we get ourselves up to Cathcart, and just kind of a really challenging part of the corridor. I'm going to drop down to the next sheet. So this is at S-curve. Cathcart's a bit at a skew. We're going to try to do what we can to kind of straighten that up. It's challenging. We're in the middle of a curve. We have a large transmission pole there in the southwest corner, so some limitations, but definitely want to do what we can to improve that. You can see there the orange substantial new storm sewer there, which isn't today, and that's the reason for that big diff. So we'll certainly be able to improve that. And then we're going to turn. We have some city property there. That's an old well site on the northwest corner, and then we'll work our way down here. So as we drop down now, we've got the bus garage, so there's some interaction there and how that connection happens. And then we work our way then back kind of on the straight section. So looking at this curve and just what kind of changes we can make. So I think we're in a preliminary phase, but mindfulness here of right of way and fitting all this infrastructure in to get around the corner. And then as we work our way north, this is a wider right of way now. So north of Cathcart, we go from 60 feet south of Cathcart to an 80-foot north. So you can just see we start to open up. We get a lot more boulevard space. Everything just fits a little bit nicer, especially once you get north of the two properties there, the residential properties on the west side, south of Market. So just kind of working our way then north on the top, we drop back down, and then you can sense the feel, right? It gets away from the residential, more industrial, commercial, which we all recognize and understand. Sidewalk facilities then on both sides up to Peck Street. And then just the way that the corridor kind of turns down the hill there, we've got some grade to contend with. We are recommending to pull the sidewalk on the west side, make a crossing at Peck, and then just bring a single trail into Dakota Street, just to kind of take advantage of that, relatively undeveloped corner. We've got some grade again to contend with, and just, being mindful of the value of a pedestrian facility both sides in that last stretch. With the trail on the east side, we think that's sufficient. Other thing to note too, maybe I'll just quick point out is, so once we get, basically north of Market Street, you'll see the pink goes on the trail side, and that's really consistent to what we built on Elmwood, where we did the concrete trail where there's a high resident density, just so you weren't getting the concrete, the bituminous for all the driveways. So just a consistent concrete trail. But then once we get north of Market, we lose that resident frequency, and that goes to a yellow color. That'd be a bituminous trail, a lot more representative of what we have in Fair. So just kind of recognizing those two color changes. And once we get down to Dakota Street, we've got some utility connections there, and then the pet crossing. So making sure that we account for that. Then that'd be on the east side of North 4th Street. So that's North 4th Street, and then on the very bottom of the screen is Cathcart. Cathcart's a tight corridor. It's tight in right of way. It's tight in feel. It kind of drops off on the south side. So we are looking at doing a consistent roadway width, but slight shift to the north, and getting that sidewalk in on the south side. Then we've got that transmission line still there, and then again those properties falling off. Really trying to be mindful of just those impacts. So we bring a sidewalk on the single side on the south side just to fit here, and then reconstructing Cathcart. New water, new sewer, and the added value here is the storm sewer connection. So the system here at Cathcart on 4th to get drainage and improve that big dip, we really got to bring the storm sewer up from Commerce. So that's the primary kind of jogger with Cathcart. There is a significant water connection here too, so there's some added value, of course. Condition of Cathcart supports it, and then we get a pedestrian connection. So a lot of added value beyond that, but one of the big drivers there is that storm sewer system. So. Any questions at all on the layout or thoughts? Otherwise,
so 4th Street is being replaced.
we're in the process of a street. Yep.
Not this year.
No bid right now. Planned construction is 25.
See when you make that, to the right of the legend, I can't quite make out the words there. But can you make that bigger?
I don't have the ability to do so here tonight, but I can be happy to show you on meetings and agendas on the city website this feasibility.
So is it next year or is it a couple of years?
2025 construction next year. So kind of a nice segue there then is the next steps estimated schedule. So this month here, June, we would proceed with our project mailer questionnaire. It's kind of a nice informational thing to touch with each resident's questions, concerns, kind of through that questionnaire process. We'd also give a heads up here of the open house that we're planning. Talk a minute more about that here, a couple slides. Early July, we're anticipating having the underground electric defined. So that's kind of significant when you're talking about improvement here out in August. We'd really like to have the information from the underground electric improvements. And then also the benefit appraisal that we talked a little bit about last time that really sets and guides the assessments. And while the improvement hearing isn't really meant to be about the assessments, it's a nice document to have. People are obviously pretty eager to have an understanding of what those could look like. And I think Mr. Roby's latest conversation with that appraiser has been an anticipated mid to late July. So kind of bringing that all together then, that August 1st, the first meeting in August 12th would be that improvement hearing. And that's where we would, have a presentation and have comment from public. And then end of the year, December, we're prepared to have the final plans brought before council, and that would be where you would approve those plans, authorized for bidding. Because of the LRP, this is going to be a county-led project similar to 36 in the turnback, led by the county but not paid for. So that'd be the one kind of difference. But other than that, the state aid plan, the presentation, the obligation to go through their review, that is all now triggered through the LRP. So it's a process we're familiar with. I don't think it adds a whole lot of burden in the project other than just schedule coordination. And obviously the value of that grant far exceeds any of those added steps that we might have to follow. Open bids in March, and then a tentative, to adjust that question, looking at starting construction spring of 25, and then progressing through and final construction in 2026, summer of 2026. So financing, it's been, I think it's starting to become a pretty big bucket, to be honest, but utility enterprise funds are obviously a significant portion. That's, kind of the obligation for us to break those out, the storm, the sanitary, the water costs, electric as well. There'll be a street lighting cost as well as that underground infrastructure to support the conversion that we'll be getting here in the next month. So those funds have a huge impact. The LRP that we spent some time talking about already, special assessments, the 429 process. We've got the county turnback funds. If council recalls, the revoking of 37, there were some dollar transfers with that. Bonding. And then kind of a more recent update since the ordering of the report is the Public Facilities Authority, the opportunity to pursue funding. In this case, it'd be low interest loans. It's something that council may recall as being familiar with. We use drinking water funds for the Well 8 project, the Well 8 well house. So what that really is a reduction in the interest percentage for those loans. So it'd be loans in this case. And we'd be looking at two different revolving funds. The clean water is the sanitary sewer portion, and then the drinking water is the water main portion. And we're going to have some more touches and kind of discussion on the PFA piece. There is a required separate public hearing and just the process to kind of vet through those. But we did recently kind of make the decision that this North 4th Street adds value going that route. And it also makes an impact on the SCADA project too, which we can share. So then the roadway costs kind of, split out and broken out there to kind of give that overall, total estimate. The whole idea with this estimating is this is meant to be, the conservative cost, the cost of contingency. These numbers include a 10% contingency. Without a project of this size, you can get a magnitude in the sense of that. We've done a lot of due diligence to scope this project, those layouts, and I'd say, we're far beyond what I would anticipate needing a contingency, but at this project time, this time in the process, it's still, mindful and I think defended to bring a contingency through, but just giving a sense for what that total cost. So my hope is as we continue to evolve in this process, this cost continues to kind of hone in on what the real cost is and continues to lower down from this mark. So this should be the highest amount that my hope is that I present to council on this project. And then kind of relating to the financing, Brian and I were going to take team tonight, but I know there's been some discussion about the affordability piece and something that I'm certainly not the expertise to speak of, but got a slide here with Ryan, and then I can circle back and present the resolution. So.
Thanks, Corey. Like Corey had mentioned, on the left of this chart here is just kind of reiterating some of the numbers that were shown on the previous slide. But I wanted to put something together for all of you in terms of, to try to address the question of what's it going to cost, how are we going to fund it, what's the impact to taxpayers. So on the left here, the total uses of funds is about 8.9. That ties to the number on the prior slide with some other fees that we get as part of the bonding process. Below that is the sources of funds. And you can see the bond issue is right now assumed at a little under $7.4 million. And then we've got some construction fund earnings of $58,000. And then the LRIP grant that Corey had mentioned before, $1.5 million. So that gets us to that same $8.9 million number. Like Corey said, a lot, these are all kind of estimated numbers, both the cost of the project, there's estimates in terms of what the bond issuance is going to be. We haven't assumed any of the low rate financing for the PFA yet. Hopefully that does come through. That would lower what the annual bond payment would be. I have that estimated number at about $540,000. That's the estimated annual bond payment. Again, that's would impact the general fund along with all of the enterprise funds as well affected by this project. So we hope that that number would only go down as we move along. To the right is the debt levy impacts. I first want to just touch on the enterprise funds. It's a little harder to kind of lay that out. But we would say in terms of this project, some level of the project is already kind of contained in what our rate projections have been that we've discussed with council in the past. But to the magnitude of how much they are, we'll just, hone in on that as we progress. A lot of things go into that. Other projects, how we finish 2023. Hopefully we'll be wrapped up with that audit here in the next couple of weeks, and that will shed some light on where each of the funds are at. On the debt levy side, we still have to go through what the assessment process will be. That impacts how much it's going to affect the levy of the general fund. But the top right there is just laid out. This is all of our current debt levies that we currently have, all the way down to the most recent one, which was the 2023A equipment certificate that impacted for the street equipment. It doesn't include anything for the North 4th Street project. What I just wanted to show here is on the bottom right, just kind of the year-to-year changes. So you can see in 2024 where we did increase the debt levy by $147,000. With the current debt that we have on hand, no changes to anything. In 2025, it's a small tick up of about $53,000. 2026, it's essentially flat. And then you can see when we get to 2027 is where a couple of the debt levies drop off. And that $275,000 drop off is where we're going to try to time out the impact of this project. You can see that 275,000, that's apples and oranges to the 540. You can see the project cost up above where the street was a little bit more than half the total project cost, but the LRIP grant is specifically for the street. So the general levy impact is going to be less than half that annual bond payment, and half of that would be 270. You can see the numbers 275. So I feel pretty confident at this point that we can manage the impact of this project from a general levy perspective to that alone, not increase anything. We can structure the bond a few different ways where, interest only payments, or we also have the county money that Corey had mentioned on the prior slide that we can use to make a payment or two if needed be to flatten the levy curve, I would say. But again, as you go too far out, there's a real numbers there, but as we move forward, new projects are going to come along and increase some of those numbers, right? But that's where we stand right now. So I just wanted to give something, like Administrator Roby mentioned, we're not looking to approve anything financially, but I just thought it would be very helpful to kind of have some numbers along with this as you're kind of reviewing everything else. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
I see where timing is very important with some of this debt levy, and once we start this in 2025, these payments won't start to become due until 2026. So am I correct?
Yeah, and we want to balance, right? We could structure it where we could push off principal payments for 2 or 3 years sometimes, but we don't want to just things down the road. So that's where we would balance using 2025. There's not going to be any impact from the payments. It would be more 2026. Normally there's a first year, just an interest only payment. So it's kind of naturally fitting into where it would time out with where we see some drop off in the debt.
Mr. Rapp, under the sources of funds, you got the bonds, construction fund earnings. Where would, I see the LRIP grants up there. Where would the turnback money, where would that be classified in there?
That is just money that the county's going to give us that has to be tied to the street project, but we're not putting in to reduce the amount of the bond.
Okay.
It's more going to be used to pay off the debt service, and then that allows us to kind of, depending on what we do, manage the debt levy so we're not
I
going down one year and then up and try to
That's
just
why
keep
it's
it
not
more.
listed up
Yeah,
there now.
correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Rapp. I appreciate it. Mr. Beanfang, I appreciate your presentation. I like how you gave us a lot to think about with infrastructure, but I like the way you kept in mind recreation also in this community too. And I kind of like what I saw there, so it's intriguing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, we've trying to maintain some consistency with that. And I think, the last two projects, I think we can honestly say that was a goal of complete streets and really mindful of just not conveyance of trucks or vehicle traffic, but kind of all users. And I think, we've been successful in that planning, successful in that implementation. And so I have the same bar of expectation on North 4th Street. And I think it's fitting and hopefully we'll see as we work through this public involvement piece, that there's a reaction from the corridor owners that's positive as well. Appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
I noticed on your timeline, I don't know how many slides back it was, but it mentioned on there, right there, bids open March of 2025. And then tentative start date, May of 2025. I've seen a lot of these projects. I didn't realize the bid dates and the start of the project were that close. 2 months?
Yeah, I would say two months is reasonable. It's certainly doable. And when I say, March 2025, I'm like targeting March 2nd. And so that will give us all of March, all of April. And then it's just, that tentative start is really just dependent on weather, to be brutally honest with you. As we progress through this, if we can move that bid date up, it's always something we're mindful of, and I'll certainly be looking at it. I think with the LRP and the PFA pieces, we have a plan submittal process that requires review and approval. And so I'm just not quite certain how that's all going to shake out, but I would anticipate, and it's expected that those agencies communicate to us, 2 months of review potentially. So getting these in before Christmas, and getting those back, hopefully end of January, so we can go out and advertise, go through that process. But 2 months doesn't concern me. We open bids and provided that they're as we expect them, we award. We can go to a pre-con pretty quickly and then be in position for starting construction. So, a project of this nature as we go, and maybe a year completion is a lot to ask for. We'll see. The industry is trending to be able to do work like this in a season. I'm on a project right now that's over $5 million in street and utility recon, and we're going to finish utilities next week, and that's $5 million. And so we had an early start this year, but basically 2 months to do the utility. So I think it's doable, Mr. Mayor, to not only get a project off the ground, but then we're just seeing that the industry, the contractor, just becoming more and more capable. So I feel okay with this schedule, even with these added kind of funding provisions. They're certainly worth their value, but always goes to say, nothing's free when it comes to this money. And in these cases, it just stops. It's just a little extra process to build in and make sure we count for that, so we get those approvals. But
Thank you.
so the report I kind of led off with is, this is a required step by law. This is something that Shannon's going to reference in the financing piece as we go to sell bonds. So this report is really, it's going to be, kind of referenced and recalled a couple different times throughout this process. We're going to be kicking off that public engagement, that public involvement initially here this month with the questionnaire, and then that commitment to an open house prior to the improvement hearing. So late July, early August, I'm not quite sure where that's gonna fit yet, but that commitment to a neighborhood meeting. And then that improvement hearing on August 12th. That would be at a regular council meeting. There's a pretty robust requirement then as far as how that's noticed for. So we have 2 public publishings in the paper, and then everybody properties mailed an invite to that meeting. So feel like there's due diligence there to make sure that those folks are invited to come in and to address council and share feedback on the project. So to kind of recognize and put those steps into play formally, then before you tonight is that resolution, just really reiterating that acceptance of the feasibility report and then calling that hearing with that identified date of August 12th.
Thank you. Any council members have any questions for city engineer, Mr. Beanfang, or city finance director, Mr. Kraft?
Just wanted to say thanks, Corey. I like what I see so far.
Thank you. If not, I will entertain a motion to accept or adopt tonight's action before us up there, R 2024-34, accepting the feasibility report calling hearing on improvement for the North 4th Street 2025 street utility improvement project.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan, seconded by Councilmember Schluter. Anybody have any comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Roby, agenda item 8B, that would be the IUOE Electric Division 2024-2025 contract.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm going to preface these next 3 agenda items, 8B, C, and D, with just one comment, which is, and I've outlined it in the memos. Historically, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 49, has represented our linemen, public works operators, and water wastewater operators. In spring of 2023, the union business agent reported to me that there was some interest in the union dividing into 3 separate bargaining units. There's a long process that they have to go through with the Bureau of Mediation Services to make something like that happen. They followed all the steps. We worked alongside the union and did not give any objection to the union splitting into 3 distinct units. And so in November of 2023, we received notice from DMS that the unit had formally split into 3 separate components, each representing effectively a division within the city of Sueur, 1 for the electric division, 1 for public works, and 1 for water and wastewater. So when we went into contract negotiations, got started a little bit late because we needed to get confirmation that the union would be splitting into 3 distinct units, because assuming they would split, we would be negotiating 3 separate contracts going forward, which is what happened. So we commenced negotiations, a new contract to commence January 1st of this year, each with unique terms. Each of the union agreements have been, proposed union agreements have been included in the packet. And I'll just start with electric and take one at a time. So the electric division negotiated a contract, a 2-year agreement. Their previous agreement was also a 2-year agreement. This one was brought effective January 1st of this year, ending December 31st of 2025. Aside from lots of different changes, as you might imagine, just updating the agreement to remove references to public works and references to water and wastewater, specifically with the unit, the electric unit. We updated and clarified some job titles just because of to more properly reflect the way the industry operates right now in terms of apprenticeships and journeymen. We did change from the last couple of contracts. We've had a min-max pay scale. What you'll see is all 3 units in the proposed agreement have removed the min-max for each of the job classes and have gone to a step scale, which is more traditional for a union contract. All 3 contracts do contain a performance plan element to them. wherein all members of the bargaining unit will receive a performance evaluation at the end of the year, or in anticipation of the end of the year, and step advancement in the following year is contingent upon a performance review score of at least 3 out of 5. We had to add language regarding the earned sick and safe time, and then there was a lot of discussion around clothing allowance. So the city's hoping, the city will recognize a pretty substantial cost savings around laundering service when we move away from the professional launderer. No one was frankly very happy with the laundry service that we were using because you never knew which uniform you were going to get back. And so we're going to be laundering uniforms in-house. So starting with the electric division, I can certainly take any questions. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to approve the electric contract as presented.
Is that the first one?
It is.
I noticed because, we tried that, what was it, 4 9-hour days, and then 4 hours on Friday or something, wasn't it? Isn't that the way it worked?
So
the
for
4 10s, Friday off.
Correct. So we trialed that in summer 2023 with the Public Works Division specifically. The electric and water wastewater were not.
I see that unless I'm reading this chart incorrectly, you've got Monday through Thursday at 9 hours at regular pay. And then on Friday, there's 5 hours at regular pay. 6 hours at regular pay.
So there's 8.5 hours Monday through Thursday, because there's a half an hour lunch, and then 6 hours on Friday.
Is that the way it's, yeah, because I didn't see the lunch.
Yep, so normal working hours, and I think it's, can't recall which article it's in here, but the normal or regular working hours should be 8.5 hours per workday, Monday through Thursday, 6 hours on Friday, totaling 40 hours per work week.
Article 9.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the 9.2.
Ah, got it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? I'm sorry, are you done with your report?
On this one, yes.
Okay, so we're looking for a recommendation to approve the 2024-2025 IUOE Electric Division 2024-2025 contract as presented. Motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Second by Councilmember Schmieder. Any discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. And item 8C, IUOE Public Works Division of 2024-2025 contract. Mr. Roby.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Quick summary here, similar terms. Public Works also negotiated a 2-year agreement, January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2025. Similarly, we updated and clarified the job titles, removed the min-max wage scale and replaced it with the step scale. Performance plan involvement, earned sick and safe time, modified the clothing allowance here. We also formalized the summer and winter hours. So from a management standpoint and from a staff standpoint, the summer hours working 4 10s with no Friday coverage from full-time staff in Public Works worked very well in 2023. In particular, as we look at staff who are doing more in-house street maintenance, it's from a management standpoint, it's nice to have fewer interruptions during that work. And once you mobilize the crew to do a job, you've got a little extra time on those Monday through Thursday. And Friday, we do have seasonal employees who cover a lot of the, call it the basic tasks, mowing and trimming, watering, things like that. And then during winter hours, of course, we go back to more typical 8.5 hour, 6 Monday through Thursday and Friday with a formalized on-call schedule. And that's the on-call schedule exists during winter hours for exactly what you might expect it exists for, which is plowing.
Very good. Anybody have any questions regarding this? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 IUOE Public Works Division of the 2024-2025 contract presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Second by Councilmember Schleter. Any discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Item 8E, IUOE Water and Wastewater Division of the 2024-2025 contract. Mr. Roby. A lot of the same.
A lot of the same. The one nuance here to water wastewater, just in terms of the step scale that I'll call attention to is the union had expressed interest and management had expressed interest in adding additional classification, which is a kind of a pre-licensure hiring. So for those who follow higher education or secondary education, post-secondary education for water and wastewater licensure, I'm not normally one of those people. The general public really isn't either. But some of the schools that put out some of our water and wastewater license holders have closed in recent years. And there's a desire within the water and wastewater departments to be able to onboard individuals into the unit and give them a period of time to gain their licensure in water and wastewater. So in the step scale, you see there's a 3 years, or 3 steps, excuse me, for a pre-licensed water wastewater operator, and then they can move into their licensure to give some time for so we can make sure that we hire good people and entice them to get the licensure and stay.
Anybody have any questions regarding this? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 IUOE Water and Wastewater Division of the 24-25 contract as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Second by Councilmember Schleter. Any discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
And I would just add a quick commentary. I want to express my appreciation for the union stewards in particular of these individual units. They're used to being able to sit around one table, all 3 at a time negotiating, and they had to be a little bit more patient because, of course, we had to set up 3 times as many meetings this year. And they were all productive, and their stewards are great and they're easy to work with. So kudos to the stewards and all the members of our bargaining units for negotiating a successful contract.
Thank you. Last agenda item is the first reading of ordinance 606, the airport lease amendment. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is somewhat of a housekeeping item. So City Code Section 33.019 speaks to leases of airport properties. So as you all know, the city does lease portions of the airport to hangar owners and also to our fixed base operator, Mr. Churchill. Some of these leases can extend beyond 5 years. And when we try to bring in new hangar owners or potential builders to sites, they want to know that there's more in it than a 5-year lease because they're looking at a 20-year useful life of their building at least. And so realistically, we should allow leases of airport property to extend beyond 5 years. This doesn't mandate it, it simply gives council the option to enter leases beyond 5 years, up to 20 years, and that's the ordinance in front of council tonight. No current leases would be directly affected by the proposed change. It just, again, gives council the option to enter into longer term leases of airport property if they wish.
Thank you. Any questions on this? I would assume not. I'll entertain a motion to conduct or waive the first reading of ordinance 606.
So moved.
To waive?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tui. Motion's to waive, seconded by Council Member Sullivan. Any other discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Lastly, reports, items of appreciation. Council members, this is your opportunity to share what's going on with your commissions, what's going on in our community. And we will start tonight with Mr. Schleter.
I attended a Sueur County officials meeting on Wednesday, the 28th in Montgomery. It's the last meeting until September. I've got a Region 9 full board meeting on Wednesday and a planning commission meeting coming up on Thursday. That's it for me.
Thank you. Moving on, Councilmember Sullivan. Nothing to report tonight. Nothing from Councilmember Sullivan. Councilmember Tui.
Nothing for tonight.
Nothing tonight. Councilmember Williams.
Just want to say congratulations to the Sueur Giants baseball team as they head for state. Good luck, guys. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to echo that, and also our track members also. I know the track team had a couple of participants that go to the state meet, boys and girls. I also want to take an opportunity to thank our Sueur Fire Department. They came out in pretty good numbers for the Lynn Dobish funeral last week, and they paid tribute to a gentleman who served our community for a long, long time. So I want to thank them also. And lastly, Mr. Roby, I want to thank you and Pete for your work today with our state representative, our U.S. representative, Angie Craig. And I also want to thank you for all the work you've done keeping our state and our federal government updated on what's going on in our community and reaching out to them all the time. So that's important communication we have going with them. A lot of things that are happening and a lot of it's through you. So thank you. Appreciate it. And with that, I will entertain a motion to dismiss tonight's meeting. So moved. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.